of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please sit. Thank you. This is without question the latest news conference I've ever had. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. And I want to thank the American people for their tremendous support. Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight. And a very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people. And we won't stand for it. We will not stand for it. I want to thank the First Lady, my entire family, and Vice President Pence, Mrs. Pence, for being with us all through this. And we were getting ready for a big celebration. We were winning everything, and all of a sudden it was just called off. The results tonight have been phenomenal, and we are getting ready. I mean, literally, we were just all set to get outside and just celebrate something that was so beautiful, so good, such a vote, such a success. The citizens of this country have come out in record numbers. This is a record. There's never been anything like it. To support our incredible movement, we won states that we weren't expected to win. Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot. And we won the great state of Ohio. We won Texas. We won Texas by 700,000 votes, and they don't even include it in the tabulations. It's also clear that we have won Georgia. We're up by 2.5% or 117,000 votes with only 7% left. They're never going to catch us. They can't catch us. Likewise, we've clearly won North Carolina, where we're up 1.4%. or 77,000 votes with only approximately 5% left. They can't catch us. We also, if you look and you see, Arizona, we have a lot of life in that. And somebody declared that it was a victory for, and maybe it will be. I mean, that's possible. But certainly there were a lot of votes out there that we could get because we're now just coming into what they call Trump territory. I don't know what you call it, but these were friendly Trump voters, and that could be overturned. The gentleman that called it, I watched tonight, he said, well, we think it's fairly unlikely that he could catch. Well, fairly unlikely. And we don't even need it. We don't need that. That was just a state that if we would have gotten it, it would have been nice, Arizona. But there's a possibility, maybe even a good possibility. In fact, since I saw that originally, it's been changed and the numbers have substantially come down just in a small amount of votes. So we want that obviously to stay in play. But most importantly, we're winning Pennsylvania by a tremendous amount. We're up 600. Think of this. We're up 690,000 votes in Pennsylvania. 690,000. These aren't even close. It's not like, oh, it's close. With 64% of the vote in, it's going to be almost impossible to catch. And we're coming into good Pennsylvania areas where they happen to like your president. I mean, it's very good. So we'll probably expand that. We're winning Michigan, but I'll tell you, I looked at the numbers. I said, whoa. I said, wow, that's a lot. By almost 300,000 votes, and 65% of the vote is in. And we're winning Wisconsin. So we're winning. We don't need all of them. We need, because when you add Texas in, which wasn't added, I spoke with the really wonderful governor of Texas just a little while ago, and Greg Abbott, he said, congratulations. He called me to congratulate me on winning Texas. I mean, we won Texas. I don't think they finished quite the tabulation, but there's no way. And it was almost complete, but he congratulated me. Then he said, by the way, what's going on? I've never seen anything like this. Can I tell you what? Nobody has. So we won by 107,000 votes with 81% of the vote. That's Michigan. So when you take those three states in particular, and you take all of the others, I mean, we have so many, we had such a big night. You just take a look at all of these states that we've won tonight, and then you take a look at the kind of margins that we've won them by. And all of a sudden, it's not like we're up 12 votes and we have 60% left. We won states, and all of a sudden, I said, what happened to the election? It's off. And we have all these announcers saying, what happened? And then they said, oh, because you know what happened? They knew they couldn't win. So they said, let's go to court. And did I predict this, Newt? Did I say this? I've been saying this from the day I heard they were going to send out tens of millions of ballots. I said exactly, because either they were going to win, or if they didn't win, they'll take us to court. So Florida was a tremendous victory, 377,000. Texas, as we said. Ohio, think of this. Ohio, a tremendous state, a big state. I love Ohio. We won by 8.1%, 461. Think of it. Almost 500,000 votes. North Carolina, big victory with North Carolina. And so we won there. We lead by 76,000 votes with almost nothing left. And all of a sudden, everything just stopped. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment, and we will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won it. So I just want to thank you.
We are reluctant to step in, but duty-bound to point out when he says we did win this election, we've already won, that is not based in the facts at all. Again, there are millions of votes yet to be counted. Our presidents don't select our victors. Steve Kornacki's at the board. Steve, we heard a lot there. We always allow a lot on election night, hyperbole, but when it veers into falsehood, we have not called the states he claimed for victories. We've not called Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. I wonder if you could fill in some of the blanks on the truth.
Yeah, well, let's take a look here at Pennsylvania. And again, you're seeing the tally of the votes so far that have been tabulated in Pennsylvania is 56 to 43%. I think the first and most important thing to say about these numbers, though, is that there are counties There are a number of counties in Pennsylvania that announced before tonight that they were not even going to open the mail-in ballots that they received until tomorrow. So there are some places in Pennsylvania that haven't counted a single mail-in ballot. There are plenty of counties like that in Pennsylvania. There are many other counties in Pennsylvania that have only counted a small fraction of their mail-in ballots. Now, why this late on election night are we saying they haven't counted many or any of their mail-in ballots? It's because they weren't allowed by state law in Pennsylvania to open the mail-in ballots until this morning. So there's been a long, some counties have been able to churn through some of the mail-in ballots, but you've got hundreds of thousands of these in some counties. They're just beginning to get to them. So, for example, if you take a look in the largest city in Pennsylvania, if you take a look in Philadelphia, we're expecting when all is said and done, over 800,000 votes are going to come out of Philadelphia. What has been accounted for so far? Do you see this bar right here, this yellow bar? Those are the votes that were cast by people who went out and voted in person today in Philadelphia. Those votes are tabulated. You're looking at them right there. Biden won them pretty overwhelmingly. You see this little sliver down here? That's the beginning of the mail-in ballot in Philadelphia. Do you see this giant gray space up here? That's the rest of the mail. They've got to get from the 400,000 or so votes that have been counted right now, all the way up to the 820,000 or so that were actually cast. And again, because they weren't able to even begin the processing of these until today, they are saying it's going to take them some time to get to all of that. That could take into tomorrow to do. But you are seeing Joe Biden overwhelmingly winning here in Philadelphia, leading the vote here, I should say, in Philadelphia, with hundreds of thousands of votes to come there. That can change. And it's not just Philadelphia. I'm showing you Philadelphia. Let's go out here to the suburbs of Philadelphia, densely populated Montgomery County. And again, you're going to see the same dynamic here. They have counted some of their mail. They have counted the votes that were cast today in person. And guess what? We're not at the top of the vote thermometer. That's because there's over 100,000 votes remaining to be counted in a giant county that Joe Biden right now is leading the tabulations in with 60%. This is true in Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh right now, this is a pretty dramatic example. Second largest city in the state. They have counted the same day vote. That's why Donald Trump looks like he's doing better than a Republican normally does in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County right now, because the same day vote, which is more favorable to Trump, has been tabulated. What has not been tabulated is the bulk of the mail vote. They are expecting more than 750,000 ballots when all is said and done to be tabulated here. They have got about 240,000 left to come. We are seeing this throughout Pennsylvania. I'm giving you the big ones here. As I said, there are small and medium-sized counties that aren't even going to have a little bit of the mail done tonight. They've said we're not even going to touch it until tomorrow. So the big picture in Pennsylvania, we think there are upward of 2 million ballots that have not yet been counted and that are not a part of this tally. Donald Trump's lead right now in what has been tabulated is sitting at a little bit less than 700,000. Again, nearly 2 million to come, and they are disproportionately Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Montgomery County, Democratic areas, and we have been seeing this split where the votes that were cast by mail, it's just for whatever reason this year, Democratic voters seem to have preferred to cast ballots by mail, and Republican voters, Trump voters, seem to have preferred to turn out on Election Day and vote in person on Election Day. And in these counties, you're seeing that Election Day vote all counted. So all the Republican votes and all the Trump votes are now included in so many of these tallies. I'm going county by county. What's not included in these tallies, either partially or wholly, across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is the mail vote. I'll tell you, we've got completed counties. We have a scattering of completed counties. I've shown you them tonight. It looks like a competitive race to me right now. It doesn't look like a race anybody could call.
It looks like a competitive race in which one of the candidates is so afraid of the ultimate tallying of the votes that he has pulled this hee-haw laugh track move tonight by saying, we did win this election. He literally said, we want all the voting to stop.
Yes.
We've already won it. I mean...
But that's not his position. opposition. Here's how you know we still can't swear, even though it's 2:35 in the morning. BS. He wants them to keep going in Arizona.
That's correct. And his campaign demanded that they keep it open later because they wanted to keep going. Exactly.
But this is straight up autocratic malarkey, and I think that what we have to sort of keep in mind is that he's not the boss of the counting.
That's correct.
The bosses of the counting are the precincts or the counties and are the states that will said on your show and other places that the counting will continue.
Exactly. And people, you cannot say it enough that Donald Trump's words tonight have absolutely no legal meaning. They are entertainment for the people who are in that room without masks on who want to be entertained by him. They're entertainment for, his friends on Fox, the people who love him. They have no legal meaning. Donald Trump has no decision-making authority over the end of the election. The election ends when all the votes are counted. The votes are being counted. If it takes 5 days, 10 days, it doesn't matter. The election ain't over until the votes are all counted. It was meaningless.
That the election was over earlier in the evening,
and then all of a sudden,
and then it was canceled.
Arizona.
It was. I mean, he kept saying over. We were getting ready for a big celebration.
Yeah.
It was all over. We were winning, and then
they counted more
and
votes.
Then what happened?
They went
exactly.
down.
And
they just
what
kept
happened is
counting.
they counted more ballots, which was terrible. And so now we must stop the counting of the ballots because we've decided that is a fraud. I mean, I'm glad that he told us in advance that he was going to do this, so that we would be less bowled over and more willing to laugh at it. But it is still just absolutely remarkable, A, to see a campaign event inside the White House, but B, to see the president literally try to do this, saying, we want all voting to stop. We've already won it. With even, as Steve's just saying, even in Pennsylvania alone, millions of ballots left to be counted.
And some ballots, by the way, of people who voted for him. So I mean, and the reality is this is the pure autocratic move that this is the reason it is so shocking that so many people think that this man is qualified to be president of the United States. Not only is he completely incompetent, but he's a wannabe autocrat. There was a Republican, one of your fellow Never Trumpers was calling him Viktor Orban. This is Viktor Orban-esque behavior. Yeah. This wild ranting, reliving his favorite moments from tonight. Remember when I was ahead by like 2 points? That was the best. And I'm just going to relive that over and over. He sounds ridiculous. I'm just embarrassed that everyone can see it, that around the world people can see it and see that this is what we are. This is what is leading the United States. It's absolutely embarrassing.
There is a deadly serious side to this, though, and I think some of the open questions are how far does the country's Attorney General, Bill Barr, go as his lawyer? I mean, there are still levers of the government that someone who's, autocratic curious can pull in service of his political campaign, and we know Donald Trump won't hesitate to pull them. Up to this moment, Bill Barr hasn't hesitated to be pulled by him, so we'll see.
Well, and the Supreme Court, and he mentioned the Supreme Court and was very specific about that. And he did telegraph
as if he can just take the election, call it over,
right?
Announce that there won't be any more voting, and that the Supreme Court will take over. That's not how it works.
It's not exactly clear that we can trust Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh and these others not to be just like Bill Barr. And so I think what scares people is that if he decides to do something that it legally makes no sense, and you're right, but Mr. Bauer is ready for him. But if somehow they manage to stumble into the Supreme Court, do any of you guys trust Uncle Clarence and Amy Coney Barrett and those guys to actually follow the letter of the law? No. I mean, it is a completely politicized Supreme Court that you can't just trust that they're going to do the right thing. Now, so far, the courts have actually been pretty good. So we'll see.
Brian.
I would only say that there's something obvious to the three of you. I'm sure if he doesn't prevail, tonight lays the predicate for the election was stolen, a very powerful and potent talking point that they can return to, a grievance over the course of 4 years, again, if he does not prevail. Joy raises an excellent point about the Supreme Court, but we have a great, excellent in-house counsel standing by, our chief legal correspondent, Ari Melber, host of The Beat, 6 p.m. Eastern on this network. Ari, a couple of questions. Number one, I know you lawyers love the term standing. Would a case that goes direct to the Supreme Court, can that happen? Is it possible without making its way to the Supreme Court? And two, Justice Barrett, the president, there's a public record of his comments saying, of course I want her seated on the court in case this election goes to the court. Is that not old-timey grounds for recusal in your line of work?
a lot of people think that calls into question her impartiality. I think what we just heard from the president, Brian, is completely horrific for democracy. You can mark it down 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time, election night, where the president of the United States declared in the middle of an election, we want all voting to stop. I could just tell you constitutionally that's not how it works. It's wrong. Legally, and this is very important for the days ahead, legally, what the president just told the nation is worthless. As a legal matter, those remarks could have been written in invisible ink. The election and the counting and the processing of ballots is not controlled legally by the president, as Joy and others mentioned. But this could get very hot very quickly, and I'll tell you exactly why. You mentioned, how do you get something to the Supreme Court? Well, if a state or several states has a margin that relates to certain types of ballots, for example, the counting of mail ballots, those kind of cases can go up through the appeals courts and up to the Supreme Court. Indeed, as recently as last Wednesday, with regard to mail ballots in Pennsylvania, a court majority said they think that potentially ballots that are counted after today might be tossed under the Constitution. That would be a change. That would be a new ruling. But we have already seen that foreshadowed. I think the big problem here, and the reason why the president addressing the nation here at this late hour and saying that he wants the vote stopped, declaring himself the winner. I mean, this is serious business. He said, we did win the election, end quote. He said that falsely. Is a big problem as this all plays out. Now, if there is ultimately a margin when the votes are counted this week that is, for example, formed by several states, it would be much harder to find a way to get standing and get before the Supreme Court. But if it is two or one state, if it relates to the mail ballots, Brian, there are ways to get back before the court. And so I think everyone has to be very clear. While we keep an open mind, rule of law, I'll report out whatever the courts decide, an open mind about all of these states that are going to tell us the votes. Several states like Pennsylvania and North Carolina, they count votes for days. The votes were cast by today, but they count them for days. We'll keep an open mind about all of that. But we cannot keep an open mind or sound neutral about the falsehoods that just came out of the White House. To be honest with you, it pains me a little bit to say it. But the president was lying about the election results and speaking to address the democracy by telling the democracy he doesn't believe in democracy, stop the voting. It's a serious development tonight.
David Plouffe is joining our conversation. Ari Melber, thank you for that. David, your reaction to those words without precedent, certainly, given everything that's been uttered in the East Room over the history of our republic and that structure.
Yeah, it's one of the darkest hours the White House has ever seen, one of the darkest hours in American history. Also, I don't think Trump's going to be successful. If Joe Biden gets to 270 electoral votes, all these votes were legally cast. They're not being counted in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, or Pennsylvania ahead of the election by state law. But it is a dangerous and dark moment. So even if Trump's not successful, and I don't think he will be if the votes are there for Joe Biden, you're going to have 40-45% of the country believing him, which is going to affect our democracy going forward. It's going to affect President-elect Biden's ability to work with Republicans in Congress. So, we knew he was going to say it. He's been telegraphing it. He tweeted it out a couple hours ago. But to see the president of the United States in the White House basically saying, I don't care what votes have been counted or not. At some point in the night, I thought I was going to win. The election should be over. It's startling. It's dark. It's scary. Now, I still think at the end of the day, if Joe Biden, wins Arizona, wins Wisconsin, wins Michigan, he's already won the Nebraska 2nd Congressional District, he'll get to 270 and he'll be the president. But these are going to be dark and scary days over the next, few days, if not few weeks.